Okay, you guys, we need to talk. I posted one photo, just one photo of my living room during the big game, and the internet absolutely exploded. You saw the charcuterie board on my lap. You saw the empty spot on the rug. And then I saw the comments. Ajoy, where is your furniture? Is it a Duggar rule? How can you live like that? I've been quiet about our home design for a long time, but today I'm showing you everything. I'm taking you through the 20 reasons why our house doesn't look like a magazine and why that empty space on the floor is actually the most important part of our home. From the safety of my kids to the trauma of growing up in a show house where everything had to be perfect for the cameras, I'm telling the full story. It's not about a table, it's about our freedom. Let's get into it. So I was just sitting there on Super Bowl Sunday, totally focused on the game and my snacks. I decided to snap a quick photo of my charcuterie board because, let's be honest, I was pretty proud of how I arranged the cheese and grapes. I hit pause and went back to the game. About an hour later, my phone started blowing up. I thought maybe something had happened with the family, but no, it was the coffee table, or rather, the lack of one. Thousands of people were commenting on the fact that I was balancing this giant wooden tray on my lap while sitting on the couch. Some people were laughing, but some were actually angry. They were calling my house unfinished or saying I was lazy for not having a table. It's funny how a piece of furniture can trigger so many people. I sat there reading the comments like, guys, it's just a rug. But it made me realize that people have a very specific image of how a Duggar home should look, and I'm just not fitting that mold anymore. If you look at that photo, there is a giant circular empty spot right in the middle of our living room rug. To most people, it looks like a mistake. To me, it looks like freedom. Austin and I talked about this for a long time when we first moved in. Do we buy a traditional coffee table? Do we go for an ottoman? We looked at dozens of options, but every time we imagined a table there, we imagined someone tripping over it. That empty spot isn't empty, it's a runway for the kids. It's where Gideon builds his massive train tracks that span the whole room. It's where Evelyn does her gymnastics rolls. If I put a table there, the room becomes a maze. By leaving it open, the room becomes a playground. I know it doesn't look Pinterest perfect, but our home is a tool for our family, not a museum for the internet. That empty spot is exactly where it's supposed to be. Let's be real for a second. I have 3 kids under the age of 7. Gideon is full of energy. Evelyn is always on the move, and little Gunnar is just starting to get into everything. Have you ever seen a toddler run full speed into the corner of a wood or glass coffee table? It is terrifying. I've seen enough ER visits in my life to know that sharp edges and active boys don't mix. When we were choosing how to set up this room, I prioritized their safety over my aesthetic. Every time I see Gideon wrestling with Austin on that rug, I'm so thankful there isn't a hard surface for him to hit his head on. We decided that until the kids are a little older and less chaotic, we are going to keep the danger zone clear. If that means I have to hold my snacks in my lap once in a while, that's a price I'm totally willing to pay to keep my babies safe. Let's talk about the physical struggle of that photo. That charcuterie board wasn't just a small plate, it was a massive, heavy wooden tray loaded with cheeses, meats, and fruit. Balancing that on my lap while trying to look cute for a photo was a workout in itself. A lot of people in the comments were convinced it was staged, that I only put it on my lap for the aesthetic. But the truth is much more boring. I just wanted to eat while I watched the game, and the couch was the most comfortable spot. Without a coffee table, your lap becomes the table. It's definitely not elegant, and yeah, I probably had cheese crumbs on my shirt 5 minutes later. But that's just my life right now. I'd rather be a little uncomfortable for a few hours of football than have a permanent piece of furniture taking up the space where my kids usually wrestle. Sometimes being real on the internet means looking a little bit awkward, and I'm totally okay with that. People ask why I don't care about having a perfect living room, and I think a lot of it comes from my childhood. Growing up in the big house, everything was always positioned for the cameras. We had to keep the common areas tidy because a film crew could walk in at any moment. It felt like we lived in a show house rather than a home. There was this constant, subtle pressure to make sure the background looked good for TLC. Now that I have my own house, I've realized I don't want to live like that. I don't want to choose furniture based on how it looks on a television screen or an Instagram feed. I want to choose what works for Austin, me, and our 3 kids. If that means having an empty spot on the rug instead of a beautiful designer table, then so be it. I'm finally in a place where my house belongs to me, not a production company, and that's a freedom I don't take for granted. I can't take all the credit or all the blame for the missing table. Austin is a huge part of why our home looks the way it does. If you know Austin, you know he is a very practical, no-nonsense guy. He's a builder, so he sees a room in terms of flow and function. When we were talking about furniture, he was the one who said, "Joy, do we really need a table there? It's just going to get in the way." He values space and utility over decoration. We actually have a very similar minimalist mindset when it comes to our living areas. We'd both rather have a room that feels open and airy than one that is packed with stuff, just because it's traditional to have it. We make these decisions together, usually over coffee in the kitchen, and we always come back to the same question: does this help our family, or is it just in the way? Right now, a coffee table is just in the way. It's funny to see people label me as a minimalist. Coming from a family of 19 kids, the Duggar aesthetic is usually associated with big, crowded rooms and lots of everything. But I've always been a bit different. Maybe it's because I spent so much time outdoors growing up, or maybe it's just my personality, but I feel overwhelmed when a room is too cluttered. I want my home to be a place where I can breathe. My sisters Jessa and Jinger have their own styles. Jessa is so good at making a house feel cozy and lived in, and Jinger has that cool, modern LA vibe. For me, I'm still figuring it out, but I know I lean towards simplicity. I don't need a lot of decorations to feel happy. I just need my family in a place where we can all sit together, even if some of us are sitting on the floor. I'd be lying if I said the comments didn't get to me sometimes. Reading thousands of people roasting your living room is a weird experience. Some people were genuinely mean, calling me names or judging my parenting based on a rug. I've had to learn how to protect my peace. Austin is great about this. He usually tells me to just put the phone down and go outside. I've realized that I can't please everyone. If I bought a table, people would probably criticize the color or the price. At the end of the day, those critics don't live in my house. They don't see the wrestling matches, the movie nights, or the kids learning to crawl in that empty spot. I've learned to laugh at the coffee table controversy because I know the truth. My home is full of love, even if it's a little short on furniture. I've had so many people tell me, "Joy, just go to the store and buy a table. You can afford it." And well, that's true, Austin, and I have always been really intentional about how we spend our money. Growing up, we were taught the value of $1, and I don't want to buy something cheap just to fill a space for a photo. I'd rather wait months, even years, to find the perfect piece, or better yet, have Austin build it. Austin is so talented with his hands, and we've talked about him crafting a custom piece that actually fits our lifestyle. Maybe something with rounded edges or an ottoman style that's softer for the kids. I refuse to buy a $2,000 designer table just to satisfy people on the internet who think my living room looks empty. We are in a season of life where our money is going toward our kids' futures and our home renovations, not just furniture to look good on a grid. Frugality isn't about being cheap. It's about being good stewards of what we have. If you could see my living room on a typical Tuesday afternoon, you wouldn't be asking about a coffee table. That empty spot is the heart of the action. Gideon and Austin are constantly on that rug wrestling or playing the floor is lava. If there was a table in the middle of that room, someone would have a black eye or a bruised knee within 10 minutes. My kids, Gideon, Evelyn, and little Gunner, use that rug as their headquarters. It's where the Ego towers get built. It's where we have indoor picnics when it's raining outside, and it's where the kids learn to tumble. To me, that rug represents activity and joy. It represents a space where my children don't have to be careful about bumping into things. I want them to remember their childhood home as a place where they could run and play freely, not a place where they were always told, watch out for the furniture. The table can wait. The wrestling matches can't. One of the biggest questions I get is, Joy, how is your rug still white? Especially with 3 kids, 2 dogs, and a husband who works in construction. Honestly, not having a coffee table actually makes it easier to keep the rug clean. Think about it. When you have a table, crumbs and dust bunnies hide underneath it where the vacuum can't reach. Without a table, I can zip my vacuum across the entire rug in about 30 seconds. I'm a big fan of those washable rugs, and I have a dedicated spot cleaner that is basically my best friend. But the real secret, we have a pretty strict no food in the living room rule, unless it's a special occasion like the Super Bowl. That's why that charcuterie board was such a big deal. Usually we keep the messy stuff at the kitchen island. Keeping the floor clear means I can see every spill immediately and take care of it before it becomes a permanent stain. It might look like more work to live without a table, but for my cleaning routine, it's a total game changer. At the end of the day, my design philosophy is pretty simple: function over fashion. I love a beautiful home, don't get me wrong. I follow all the home decor accounts, and I love seeing what my sisters do with their spaces. But I've realized that what works for an Instagram photo doesn't always work for a family of 5 living in the real world. I don't want to be the mom who is constantly stressed about a water ring on a wood table or a scratch on a glass surface. I want my house to be kid-proof so that I can focus on my children instead of my belongings. Austin and I have built our life on being practical. We flip houses for a living, so we see people spend thousands on things they never use. We decided that our personal home would be different. It would be a place of utility and comfort. If a piece of furniture doesn't serve a clear daily purpose, it doesn't get a spot in our living room. Fashion fades, but the peace of mind you get from a functional home lasts forever. I think some people genuinely believe we live in an empty box, but if I turn the camera around, you'd see that we actually have plenty of furniture. Our kitchen has a big island where we spend about 80% of our time. That's our hub. It's where we eat, where Gideon does his schoolwork, and where I prep all our meals. We have a dining table for family dinners, and Austin has his office set up with everything he needs. The living room is the only place where we've intentionally left that big open space. It's our designated soft zone. We have the big comfy L-shaped sectional that everyone fits on, and we have end tables for our drinks and remotes. So we aren't exactly roughing it. We just separated the eating and working zones from the playing and relaxing zones. Once people see the rest of the house, they usually go, oh, okay, I get it now. We have everything we need. We just don't have the one thing everyone expects us to have. I love my sisters so much, and seeing how they've built their homes has taught me so much about what I want and what I don't want. Jessa is so talented at making a house feel like a home. She just welcomed her 6th baby, Edward Owen, and her house is always full of that cozy, bustling, lived-in feeling. She doesn't let the noise of a big family stop her from creating a beautiful space. Then there's Jinger. She's out in LA now, and her style is so modern and sleek. She recently did a Q&A where she laughed about the mystery of our huge family and all the grandkids. And it reminded me that even though we all grew up in the same house, we've all taken such different paths. Jinger's home is very aesthetic and polished, which fits her life in California perfectly. But looking at them, I realized I don't have to pick a side. I don't have to have Jess's busy household or Jinger's LA perfection. I can just have my Arkansas farmhouse with an empty rug. They've taught me that a home should reflect the woman living in, and right now I'm a woman who needs space for her kids to run. I'm grateful for their examples, but I'm even more grateful that I feel confident enough to do things my way. We live in a world where everything has to be curated. If you're an influencer, Or even just someone on Instagram, there's this unspoken rule that your house has to look like a magazine 24x7. You see these perfectly staged living rooms with white couches and glass coffee tables with expensive books on them. And you think, does anyone actually live there? I've felt that pressure. I've felt the urge to buy things just so a photo would look better. But that Super Bowl photo was the real me. I was sitting there balancing a tray on my lap, enjoying the game. I could have cropped the photo to hide the empty spot on the rug, but I didn't. I want my followers to see the reality of raising 3 kids under 7. It's messy, it's sometimes unfurnished, and it's always busy. When we stop trying to live for the likes, we start living for the moments. I'd rather have 1,000 people roast my living room than spend one day living in a house that feels like a set instead of a home. One thing people don't always realize is that we are a DIY family. Austin flips houses for a living, so he sees furniture differently than most people. He doesn't look at a catalog. He looks at a piece of wood and sees what it could become. We've actually been talking about him building something custom for that empty spot on the rug. He wants to make something that serves a purpose, but doesn't take away the play area. We're thinking about a large, soft ottoman that he can build a wooden slide over tray 4. That way, when we want to eat, we have a hard surface. But when the kids are wrestling, we can move the tray and they just have a soft place to land. That's the beauty of being married to a builder. You don't have to settle for what's in the store. You can wait for something that actually fits your life. So to everyone asking when I'm buying a table, I'm not. We're going to create something that's uniquely for Seath, and it'll be worth the wait. Just because we don't have a coffee table doesn't mean we don't have rules. Some people thought that because I was eating on the couch in that photo, my kids just run wild with food everywhere. But actually, we are pretty strict about where the kids eat. They know that snacks stay at the kitchen island. The Super Bowl was a special treat, a party day where we let things slide a little bit. We are trying to teach Gideon and Evelyn that they have to respect our home. They know that the rug is for playing, not for spilling juice. In a way, not having a table makes those lessons easier. There isn't a surface for them to pile their toys on or leave their half-eaten apples. They have to put things away where they belong. It's all part of our goal to raise grateful, responsible kids who understand that our house is a blessing we have to take care of together. Even without a table, there's plenty of discipline and respect in this house. When the show was canceled, it was a huge shift for all of us. For the first time in my life, I didn't have to think about what a producer would think of my living room. I didn't have to worry about lighting or if a piece of furniture would block a camera angle. It was incredibly liberating. The TLC effect is real. It makes you perform even when you don't realize it. Since the cameras left Austin, and I have been able to truly find our own style. We've made mistakes. We've left rooms half painted for months, and yes, we've lived without a coffee table. And you know what? No one died. The world didn't end. I think my house is more now than it ever was when we were counting on. I'm not decorating for a TV audience anymore. I'm decorating for a husband who loves me and 3 kids who just want a place to wrestle. That realization has been the best design choice I've ever made. I've realized that the empty spot in my living room isn't just about the kids. It's about my own mental health. Growing up in a house with so many people, there was always something everywhere. Shoes, toys, people, noise. As an adult, I've found that I really need physical space to feel calm. When I walk into my living room and see that clear open rug, it feels like I can breathe. It helps my anxiety. There's something about a room that isn't packed to the gills with furniture that just makes me feel more peaceful. I don't feel like the house is closing in on me. Austin understands that about me. He knows that even though a designer might say we need a table to anchor the room, my heart needs that space to stay anchored. Sometimes the most valuable thing you can have in a home isn't a piece of furniture. It's room to think, room to move, and room to just be. So to everyone who was worried about my charcuterie board or my missing table, Thank you for caring, but we're doing just fine. My house might not look like yours, and it might not look like what you see on TV, but it's perfect for the Forsyth family. We are choosing a life that is simple, a little bit minimalist, and 100% real. Our kids are safe, our rug is clean most of the time, and our hearts are full. If the biggest controversy in my life right now is a lack of furniture, then I think I'm doing pretty well. I'm not going to rush out and buy a table just to stop the comments. I'm going to keep living our life, enjoying our wrestling matches on the rug, and maybe occasionally balancing a snack tray on my lap, because at the end of the day, a home is built on the people inside it, not the stuff you put in it. This is Joy Anna, and I'm so happy to share my unfurnished life with you all.